This was supposed to be my opening, but I was down with something for the first half of May, and I realized something wrong I did, so I basically redid the whole thing from scratch. So here's gonna be the new opening for June. Every day's great at your Juneness. With the release of Standup Diva, all 4 Diva teams Centenary have finally debuted. This set introduces a new mechanic, Exceed, which is removing growth lyric cards to the lyric trash, which is separate from the trash zone to activate various effects. This also includes cards under assist lyrics, so make sure to use them as well. Standup Diva also has special collect cards with Duel Masters Place, which is the mobile version of the Duel Masters TCG, but it is only available in Japanese. As usual, I will be talking about the focus cards of the set, mainly the new Centellarics and the super rares. The first new Centellaric is Ray on the Wings of Supremacy from No Limit. Her enter skill is Draw 1 and Energize 1. She also has an auto skill, which is at the beginning of your attack phase. If you have drawn 2 or more cards by effects on this turn, you may pay 1 and 1 blue. If you do, put target level 2 or less Signy on the bottom of its owner's deck. And lastly, her once per game skill is down 2 up level 2 lyrics and discard your entire hand. For your opponent to discard cards equal to the number of blue cards you discarded this way. Ray focuses on draw power and removals given that you have drawn at least 2 cards using effects, and her once per turn skill is the standard for No Limit lyric where you aim for a 1 turn win, which in Ray's case is making your opponent discard their hand. In other words, servants, given that you discard the majority of blue cards from your hand for her skill. The second new Centellaric is Nova, Sky Feather from Uchu no Hajimari. Her enter skill is return target Signy on your opponent's field back to its owner's hand. Her second skill is Auto. Whenever this lyric attacks, if there are 5 or more cards underneath it, put up to 1 target Signy with guard from your trash onto the top of your deck. If there are 7 or more cards underneath it, draw 1. And lastly, her once per game skill is put all cards underneath all other lyrics on your field under this lyric. Nova basically focuses on defense, as she can cycle servants from trash and allowing you to draw them instantly, but you have to be mindful when using Exceed with her, since you need to have enough cards under her for her skill. But since in WIXOSS you draw 2 each turn, maybe you can get away with just 5 cards under her. The next new Centellaric of this set is VJ Wolf, third verse from Card Jockey. Her enter skill is this lyric gains constant Signy on your field, get plus 5k power until end of turn. She also has an X skill, down this lyric to Energize 2. And her once per game skill is this lyric gains act down and up level 2 lyric to up this lyric until end of turn. Similar to DJ Love It Center from the previous set, she activates her skill by downing herself, and similar to MC Lion Center, she can up herself by downing your assist lyrics, which can give her up to 3 lyric attack, be it only once per game. Although, looking at her skill of powering up all your Signy, and since Green has the Lance ability, which can damage an opponent's life by winning a Signy battle, Wolf probably focuses on Signy battles rather than attacking with your Centellarics. And the final team with the new center is Diagram with Sangha Vogue 3. Her enter skill is Energize 2, and her auto skill is at the beginning of your attack phase. If you have a blue Signy, green Signy, and a black Signy on your field, Energize 1. Then add up to 1 target Signy from your inner zone to your hand. And her once per game skill, which is similar to other Diagram centers, is returning target level 1 Diagram lyric on your field back to your lyric deck. Sangha allows getting the needed cards from your inner zone to your hand, which can be cards that are energized or life checked, given that you have a multicolored board, which can be troublesome to set up. But for those who are used to having a multicolored deck, it may not be that much of an issue. The first white super rare is Blue Waylin, Aquatic Phantom Queen. She has a constant skill of getting 1k power for each card in your hand that is more than your opponent. Her second skill is an auto skill, which is at the beginning of your opponent's attack phase. If you have exactly 6 cards in your hand, draw 1. And her once per turn skill is an X skill, which is pay 2 white, discard 2 cards to put target Signy on your opponent's field into its owner's trash. Judging by her skills, putting her in a deck with high draw power is essential to utilize her skills properly, as her third skill requires to discard 2, and her second skill allows you to draw on opponent's turn where you can have more than 6 cards in hand. Further shows her draw support given she does not get removed before the attack phase. Since she gains 1k power for each card difference, sleeping her in a blue discard deck can be an option. The next white super rare is P Knight Code Heart. Her first auto skill is at the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, target lyric on your opponent's field gains constant. This lyric cannot attack unless you pay 2 until end of turn. Her second auto skill is at the end of your turn. If you have used a spell on this turn, this Signy gains Shadow Signy until end of your opponent's next end phase. She also has a life burst, which is choose either to draw 1 or return target up Signy on your opponent's field back to its owner's hand. She makes your opponent pay for a lyric attack and blocking a Signy attack with her Shadow skill, making her a formidable disruptor for your opponent's plays. But the condition for her to gain Shadow is playing a spell, so putting in more spells in place of Signys in a deck may be a concern. And the last white super rare is Komi, Blessed General Queen, who has the harmony requirement of downing a green lyric. Her first skill is Auto. Whenever a white lyric on your field attacks, you may down 2 up Signy on your field and pay 1 and 1 white. If you do, up the lyric that attack and it loses its abilities until end of turn. Her second skill is also an auto skill, which is when this Signy is vanished while up, you may pay 2 and 1 white. If you do, put this Signy from your end zone onto your field downed. Komi allows multiple lyric attacks on a single turn in exchange for losing all its abilities, and able to bring herself back when vanished in exchange with not attacking with her. To point out, her skill does not specify downing other Signys, so she can down herself as well to use her skill, although this means there is a risk of losing her. Moving on to the red super rares, first we have Coco Lupico Phantom Beast Deity, which is one of the collab cards with Dual Master's plays. She has a constant skill, which is as long as this Signy is in your center Signy zone, the cost to grow lyric on your field is reduced by 1. Her second skill is Auto once per turn. During your turn, when a lyric on your field grows, you may pay 1. If you do, vanish target Signy on your opponent's field with power 8k or less. Although she can reduce grow cost by 1, since she is level 3, her skill can only be used on assist lyrics, but she is only useful for the early game because by then all the lyrics have finished growing. So, the second red super rare is Zucius, Crimson Angel Queen. She has Rise, which requires her to be placed on top of an Angel Signy for her to be on the field. Her first skill is Auto. Whenever this Signy attacks, if there is a white angel underneath it, this Signy gets plus 3k power and gains Shadow Signy until end of your opponent's next end phase. If there is a blue angel, draw 2. If there is a green angel, enter charge 2. Her enter skill is pay 1 to put target Angel Signy from your trash under this Signy. She is quite the durable Signy, having multiple effects depending on the color of Signys under her, which can be up to 2 colors, which is quite easy to achieve with her enter skill. But this also means needing having a multicolored deck with at least 2 colors other than black. Moving on to the blue super rares. First we have Firefly Squid Aquatic Phantom Deity. She has harmony mechanic of requiring to down one white lyric. Her first skill is an auto skill, which is at the beginning of your attack phase, draw 1. And her second skill, which is also an auto skill, is once per turn, when you discard one or more cards by your effect, your opponent discards a card at random. She supports draw and discard if you combo her with Signis that discards as a cost, but it is only once per turn, and her skill only makes your opponent discard 1, no matter how much you discard, so do remember that. The second blue super rare is Waffle Ice Code Order. First, her enter skill is freeze up to 2 target Signi on your opponent's field. She also has an auto skill, which is whenever a frozen Signi leaves your opponent's field, put the top card of your deck under this Signi, face up. And her second auto skill is, at the beginning of each attack phase, put a card under this Signi into its opponent's hand or the inner zone. She also has Life Burst, which is downing target Signi on your opponent's field and freeze it, and also draw 1. First of all, she looks delicious. Anyways, she allows for draws even on opponent's turn, which allows you to draw more than 6 and allow you to be able to choose which card you want to add to your hand first, which is good. But this requires you to vanish frozen Signis, which gives your opponent empty zones for them to place their Signis for a counter attack. Next we have the green super rares. First up is Saber Tiger Phantom Beast Deity. She has harmony requirement of 1 red lyric. She has a constant skill of giving 3k power to other Signis on your field. Her second skill is auto whenever this Signi attacks and recharge 1. Then if 3 or more cards were moved from your deck into your inner zone on this turn, you may pay 1 green, and 1 red. If you do, vanish target Signi on your opponent's field. Her second skill only activates if you inner charge at least 3 times on a turn, and her inner charge also counts, so this is quite easy to achieve. But the cost also requires a red inner, so she needs to be in at least a green and red deck. The second green super rare is Giropon Code Labyrinth. Her first constant skill is as your opponent places a Signi on their field, they must place it in front of this Signi if possible. And her second constant skill is, during your turn, this Signi cannot be moved from the field to anywhere else other than the end zone by your opponent's effect. And her third skill, which is an auto skill, is whenever a Signi on your opponent's field is placed in front of this Signi, you may give it minus 3k power until end of turn. As her name implies, she does not allow anyone to pass through her, with requiring to place Signis in front of her and reducing their power and having 12k power base, and cannot be moved other than to inner zone makes her a formidable wall to overcome. The third green super rare is Demeter Jade Angel Queen. She has harmony requirement of 1 blue lyric. Her first auto skill is at the beginning of your attack phase if you have 3 or more different colors among Signi on your field and this Signi is up, you may pay 1 and 1 green. If you do, another target Signi on your field gains Lancer until end of turn. Her second auto skill is once per turn, during your turn when another Signi on your field is vanished and recharge 1. She gives Lancer, which is usually a green ability to other Signi, which can be Signi with high power, thus able to win the Signi battle and damage your opponent, but the requirement is having a multicolored field in place. Another thing to point out is her second skill is only usable on your turn, which means either pairing her with Signi that retires as cost or using her as defensive countermeasure when your opponent vanishes your Signi due to a life burst. And finally, the black super rares. First we have Ereshkigal, Doomed Evil Queen. Her one skill is enter, put 2 cards from your life cloth into your trash. If 2 cards were put into the trash by this way, put all Signi on your opponent's field into their trash. And her life burst is target Signi on your opponent's field gets minus 10k power until end of turn. She is a high risk, high reward Signy, where you do a field wipe for an all-out attack, but her skill requires to have 2 life cloth as cost. If you have less than 2, you cannot use her skill. The second black super rare is Actinium, Natural Element Queen. Her first skill is during your turn, whenever a lyric on your opponent's field grows, add target black Signy from your trash to your hand. And her second skill is an act. Once per turn, pay 1 black to put the top 5 cards of your deck into your trash. Then put target black Signy from your trash onto your field. Her first skill is only useful in the early game, but since she is a level 3, you can't play her that early. And needing to trash 5 cards is quite a cost, but for a black deck, an early mill is actually useful. And that is all for Stand-Up Diva set introduction. Coming soon in July are 2 things. First is the Top Diva Deus Ex Machina starter deck and the new set Vertex Diva. Until then, see you next time.